So tell me, Rindo, how can you add a heroine in a harem rom-com story where the that heroine has so much affection for another heroine, another character within the harem, and how does her whole character trait don't affect or make sure it does not affect the whole harem dynamic, the story dynamic, and her relationship towards the main protagonist? And that's essentially already answered by with what May has in her devotion towards Hahari. But in today's Tell Me Rindo, I want to discuss about Mai Meido, the self-proclaimed little sister of May. Now, Mai is the 20th girlfriend in the Rentaro family in this manga series, the 100 girlfriends who really love you. She is a maid who works for the Hanazono household, and she has a sister complex, a non-biological one towards May, and is somehow also someone who can be quite clumsy at times. Now, Mai proclaims to be the little sister of May when in actuality it's actually more of a title per se, since both May and Mai serve Hahari, May being the senior maid whilst Mai is the junior in the hierarchy, hence why she refers to May as the older sister. And yes, it just so happens that both of them have the same last name, but they are spelled with different kanji. Now, it was revealed that May is the granddaughter of the Hanazono estate's previous head maid, and that she got the inspiration to work as a maid from watching May perform her duties so excellently. And Mai sees May as a sort of role model, as the perfect maid, the ideal maid, and that's fact. But it was a tough challenge for Mai. He struggles a lot as someone who's a bit clumsy. Um, she's having a hard time really getting her act together, so to speak. But after her junior high school graduation, she became a live-in maid in the Hanazono estate, essentially working already with Hahari and together with May. Now, her appearance has been seen in previous chapters of this manga, but hasn't really locked eyes with Rentaro because she's been avoiding looking at at his face. And that's probably because of how upset she was that Rentaro quote unquote stole May from her, which is, I don't know if it's cute or if it's incredibly lucky how she's able to really direct eye contact from him as much as possible. But hey, manga magic, am I right? Now, Mai is, as I've said, right, incredibly in love with May, right? So much so that she's always spacing out, thinking about her all the time, which also explains why she is prone to accidents and that causes her clumsiness because of all that zoning out here and there. But despite all that, she's still a dedicated and pretty exceptional maid. Her impression towards Rentaro, isn't really the greatest at first, or at least to how I see it in my opinion. Really, that's the case, right? Because in her debut chapter, she really wanted to sabotage his relationship, Rentaro's relationship with May when he was invited to the estate. But after some circumstances, they happened to lock eyes. Rentaro and Mai happened to lock eyes, and it was then when Mai started to act like a teenage girl in love. Like full-on fangirling on how hot and cool Rentaro is, which, as he should be, he is. And, after a few disputes here and there along the way, Mai finally agreed to go out with Rentaro. Short answer of how she changed her mind is that they both love May so very much. Now, when she was introduced to the family, right, she didn't accept all of them either at first. But then, after some wise words and a nice, really wholesome conversation from Kurumi and Chiyo towards Mai, both gave their case, or they both shared their experiences rather together with the Rentaro family. That they told them to give the family a chance because despite the Rentaro family being the Rentaro family, they're actually really good people in heart, right? Because if you think about it, if you remember rather, both Kurumi and Chiyo were in that sort of position where they didn't plan to go along with the whims of the Rentaro family, right? Because Kurumi is trying to isolate herself, trying to, only get along with Rentaro. Chiyo is trying to force her ideals onto them and all that. But after spending time with the family, they realize that deep inside, yeah, they are good people, and that living away from them or not being with them is quite terrifying, you know. And it's something that I can understand. Like, if this manga was taken away from me, if this story was ever taken away from me, if I'm ever apart from it, I would go ballistic, and I don't know what would happen to me if I haven't if I haven't read this series to begin with. It's so beautiful. But sorry, enough about me. At the end of the introduction chapter of Mai to the Renter family, it ends with a clumsy Siscon Sundere Mei joining the family, right? Now, right, the thing with Mai, right, is, you know, in my opinion at least, I find Mai to be a really fascinating heroine, you know, especially in a manga as this, right, because of her Siscon trait. Now, as I've said in my intro, right, that this sort of character, this heroine, is madly in love with another heroine. That's the sort of the same case that we've experienced towards Mei, at least to the degree that we know that Mei is deeply dedicated and obsessed and devoted towards Hahari. And Mai is, you know, quite similar, right? Mai is devoted to Mei, really in love with Mei for that matter, right? Now, especially as you get to see how strong Mai's affection rather for me is in her debut chapter, you might think to yourself that, you know, her feelings towards um, Mei is much stronger than that of Rentaro, and the same could go for with Mei's case, right? We have these thoughts within us that, Mei is much more dedicated to Hahari than Rentaro. Well, that probably also being the case, at the end of the day, we still see moments where Mei is truly in love with Rentaro, right? And Mai experiences this whole same thing, right? Now, Mai is actually one of the heroines in this entire manga who had her kiss with Rentaro in a much more later chapter, right? For instance, with Kusuri's case, Kusuri had her true love's kiss, quote unquote, 3 chapters after her debut, which is after the the kiss zombie arc, so to speak. And Hahari was also one who had her kiss with Rentaro a few chapters after. And this is because of what happened in the Hakuri rescue arc and her resolve with her husband. And to just throw it in, she's also the first adult heroine in the Rentaro family, so there's that to consider. But at the end of the day, they still managed to, land a kiss with Rentaro. But with the case of Mai, however, it wasn't at her debut chapter. It wasn't at the introduction. It wasn't at her introduction to the Rentaro family, but it was during chapter 107 when they were at the Yakiniku restaurant and the addictive cabbage mini arc, so to speak. Now, that very kiss, right? Even at the kiss that happened in that chapter was made possible, or was greatly pushed further from the fact that the last person Rentaro kissed was Mei, and so technically Mai would be kissing Mai kissing Rentaro would be kissing Mei as well. And to be fair, in the end she was enthralled by both Rentaro's and Mei's lips, so to speak. And further down the road, we still see Mai dependently choose to really show affection towards Rentaro despite it all. But going back to the amount of affection for Rentaro, right? In the case of Mai, right, in her debut chapter, she does display an amount of love for Rentaro, and seeing him as a true, sort of true partner, a true person to be with. But for me, part of me at least says that it's more of an quote unquote eros type of love, where it's all sexual and all that, where she's simply infatuated by Rentaro's hotness, which I can't blame her. But as you read and look further into the lines of this story, as you, progress further in the manga, thus far, you'll find that Mai really fell in love with Rentaro's pure and beautiful soul. His character, as he's someone who really cares a lot for the people that he loves. And seeing that realization or learning that realization, Mai was able to really determine. That's an indicator for Mai that she really looks at Renter as more than just a pretty face, but as a genuinely good person. And perhaps she's mad at him, because she's scared that such a perfect guy like him is someone that May would rather want to be with, or something like that. I don't know. That's just a sort of theory that I came up with. Perhaps that's the case. Perhaps it's not. And there's actually a lot of different perspectives that you could go about seeing how, or trying to figure out how Mai really feels for Rentaro. But at the end of the day, fam, she truly does love him. You know, she's just difficult in expressing it because of the way that she always mentions May. So yeah, clumsy Sundere Siskan Meido hates Rentaro, but as much as she hates him, she loves him a million times more. And that's beautiful. And with that being said, take care, family.